Hello students, welcome back. Let's go to another topic today.
Welcome, dear students. Today we are going to study the first part of lesson number 1 in history. The name of the lesson is Historiography Development in the West. Let's go to part 1. Before going to part 1, let's see the definition. What is historiography? Historiography means to understand the past, where we learn about historical research, about writings and studies which are carried out. Without research and without writing, we cannot go through history. Now, the most important thing in history is all the events, incidents are arranged in chronological order. Do you know what is chronological order? Yes, the chronological order means according to the events, according to the incidents, according to years. These past events are interconnected with each other. Interconnection is very important in history, so that we can learn about not only about the causes or the reasons, but we can also learn about the consequences. And this history is a continuous process. It's a never ending. Each and every incident is related with each other. There are few historical research methods. How history is done through? History is always studied through research method. Dear students, there should be some proof so that we can believe on it. So what is done? Examining. The most important thing is examining the references with the information available. Whatever information is available, through that different things are examined properly through the references, and then after critically examining all the resources, all the sources of history, then they are forwarded, so that nothing is believed without a proper proof. Then all the formulate problems, related questions or relevant questions are formed. All the historical information is collected about that particular topic. We also understand the references of, even comparative studies are done on that topic. So historical research method is very important in writing history. Historian. Who is a historian? Historian, you already say that historian is a person who writes history. But how does he should be an expert? Anybody cannot write history. A person who is expert, who knows the language and script of the historical documents. Language and script means what? Might be the scripts or language which were written in the some years before. They might be different scripts, different languages, different, right? So that person should be expert in that, so that he knows the language, and then he can study about it and write it and keep it in front of the people. A historian should be able to read and understand its meaning. He should be able to read that language, that script. He should be able to understand the meaning, so that he can write about it or he can read it. Also, examining the document. Different documents are written in different lettering style. Different styles are used. Lettering style. If you see the letters which were written by kings, they were in different scripts. Today we write it in Devanagari script. Before Devanagari, we had Modi script. Before Modi, it was Brahmi script. So different scripts were used for writing, and the historian should be able to understand it. He should also know about the author's style of writing, how writing was done, manufacturing date of that particular letter or particular book or particular document, and also the type of paper on which it is written, what type of paper is used, when was it made, how was it made, what is the material used. All these things or all the knowledge of these things should be known to a historian. He should also scrutinize with the help of historical references. Scrutinize means what? He should examine it properly. All the historical references. He should collect all the related references or documents and everything, and then he should write about that particular incident or event so that it will be written in a proper method with proper proof. There are certain methods of writing history. First is archaeology. You know what is archaeology? Archaeology means we call it as the study of remains of the fossils which were found right after excavation, like Mohenjo-daro, Harappa. There were excavations done at these places. So whatever study of these remains are done, it is called as archaeology. Next is archival science, which means the collection of documents and data related to a particular thing, particular incident. We call it as archival science. Next is manuscriptology. Manuscript means what? Handwritten. Before printing press was invented, the documents were written by hand. And so this manuscript, we call it as handwritten documents. Next is epigraphy. Epigraphy means what? There were some inscriptions done. Inscription means what? On different metals. There was some inscription, carving was done. This is called epigraphy. Then analysis of lettering style. Letters were written in different styles. There were different language and scripts. Next is linguistic. I told you different languages were used. For example, some different in India also there were kings ruling and they were using different languages for communication. So that type of language also is used to study history. Next is numismatics, means the study of coins. If you visit the coin museum, you'll understand different periods and different kings and what type of language was written and what pictures were there. All this is called as numismatics. Next is genealogy. Genealogy means what? The study of lineage. Lineage we can call it, means the ancestors, the kings, their fathers, their grandfathers, their great grandfathers. All this family tree we call it as genealogy. Let's go to first part, tradition of historiography. It's nothing but narrative. It's a narrative in the ancient period. A narration of a ancient period. Because in ancient people, right? Ancient people pass the stories of life and valor of their ancestors to the next generation. History was not in written format. So how history was passed? History was passed from one generation to other generation in the form of stories, right? In the form of cave paintings. People used to draw different incidents on the cave walls and they used to tell the stories. There were some songs sung for some incidents, ballads. So all these ways were in ancient period to transform history from one person to other person, one generation to other generation. And this was really a great source. And because of this source, we could today go to modern historiography. Let's see what is modern historiography. This modern historiography has its roots where in ancient Greek historical writings. You know, in Greek was a place where you can find many historical writings. And what are the characteristics of these writings? That they were based on scientific principles. This historiography or historical writings were based on scientific principles. Explanation was done. Not only that, but relevant questions were also written in this Greek historical writings. And so we called it as modern historiography because they were written with the help of evidence, a reliable evidence or reliable proof. Without proof, history writings were not published. So we call it as modern historiography. If you see the ancient one, it was just passed from one generation to another generation orally. Now it needs a proof. It's also modern historiography is also a graph of mankind's journey with the help of past. How man's journey went on changing. How was the progress, development, how was the changes. All these things are also included in modern historiography. Do you know this person is called the father of history? Yes, Herodotus. He explained that really history is means he is called the father of history. Why he is called the father of history? Because he was the first person to write the book, the histories, in 5th century in Greece. So we call it history is a Greek term. History word has come from Greek. Let's see how the development of history was there in Europe. There was remarkable progress in the fields of philosophy and science in the 18th century. So in 18th century, slowly progress started in Europe. Europe was the first region where most of the educated people lived, where most of the traders, merchants, kings, they all started progressing a lot. European people afterwards captured most of the part of world. So the progress mainly started in Europe. We say all the inventions and discoveries mainly started in Europe. This study began by applying scientific method. So scientific methods were applied, and then the study of history or the study of philosophy was done. Prior to 18th century, means European universities were interested in philosophical discoveries, and they were only studying about divine phenomenon. Right? They were not interested in all these histories. But after 18th century, changes were there. But before 18th century, European universities were only interested in some divine phenomenon or some philosophical discoveries. Nobody paid attention towards history. But in 1737, University of Göttingen was the first university in Germany which founded an independent department of history. And so history thereafter started becoming developing, right? This is a picture of Göttingen University of Germany. Here are a few exercises for you. You have to identify the wrong pair. Epigraphy, which is called the story of inscriptions. Numismatics, study of coins. Genealogy, study of language. Archaeology, study of ancient remains. You will get 4 pairs, and out of 4 pairs, one of the pair is wrong. You have to recognize it. Naturally, it is the third, genealogy. It's not the study of language. It is the study of lineage. Right? The important questions from this first part is, what is historiography and what are historical research methods? You can write about historical research methods. This is an important link which you can go through it. Thank you, dear students.